Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 12th, 2024. Coming up, the Cavs are 12-0. Even though they got a scare from the Bulls, we got a bunch of injuries that are going to color the NBA Cup opening week. And we got Andrew Schlecht to talk about the Chet Holmgren injury and how that's going to affect the rest of the Thunder season. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zena. Wow, how about those Cavs, Zena? 12-0. When are they going to stop? I actually asked you this, in our little group chat. When are we going to believe in them? That's the real question that we got to start getting to, because I'm starting to believe a little bit, even though they got another scare from the Bulls. You know, the Nets put the scare into them the other night. They survived. The Cavs now 12-0 after beating the Bulls 119-113. And, we highlighted Darius Garland on yesterday's show, and he's been amazing. And this was not his best game last night, Zena. But luckily, when Garland doesn't have it going, you just have Donovan Mitchell
on the other side.
Can do
exactly.
stuff. And he's been awesome this year, too. So, yep. I mean, what a game for the Cavs. They just keep winning.
It was surreal. And I'm going to tell you, I think in the group chat, I feel like I'm the only one that believes this Cavs team is legitimate. I mean, until we see them fully be able to, I don't know, get blown out like they've done other teams. Yeah. I saw the Warriors just catastrophe. So I do believe in this team. I have said since the season started, they are really well constructed. And last night against the Bulls, you saw how well constructed they are. When Darius Garland isn't having a night of playmaking and offensive shot making like he typically has, guess what? Don't worry. You got Donovan Mitchell, who can score 25 points in the first half, end up with 36 points. Oh, also your bench, you need a little bit of a boost because your starters aren't playing well against the fast Bulls who are going in transition at lightning speed. Don't worry. You got Ty Jerome coming off the bench to get you steals, to get you deflections. And can also drop in some threes. It was so perfectly mapped out last night as to why the Cavs are built to contend in this league. They were able to withstand the speed of the Chicago Bulls, give them their credit. The way that they came out at the Cavs was tremendous. But ultimately, the Cavaliers have something going. And right now, it's depth, it is resilience. And one thing that's going to be in question is their size. Especially we heard that news with Jared Allen. We're still trying to figure out what happened there. Yeah,
Jared Allen had to leave the game, suffered an injury, so they finished the game without him. No update as of recording, but you mentioned the bench and the depth, and they actually won the game for him. You look at this game and the Bulls starters, I think for the majority of the game, they really did kind of outperform the Cavs starters. Donovan Mitchell kept them in it with the 25 points, like he needed that. But the bench, you had Ty Jerome, you had George Niang. You had these guys coming off the bench and getting points. Ty Jerome had a bunch of key steals and was out there. They ran an interesting lineup for a little bit. We didn't get to see it very long, but it was, three guards. It was Ty Jerome, it was Darius Garland, and it was Donovan Mitchell with their two bigs. And that was interesting. So this team, they have just a lot of different lineup combinations. Everything's clicking for them right now. They're just shooting the leather off the ball, which they're also getting a little bit of shooting luck on the other end. But last year, when it was happening for OKC, we didn't hold that against them. I'm not ready to hold that shooting luck against the Cavs either. I just think that when you look at what they're doing defensively, it looks better than the numbers maybe are. Like, I think they're still top 10 in defense, but they've got some moments here in the game last night where the starters were out there after the bench brought them back, and those guys were flying all over the court. You had Donovan Mitchell Xing out on shooters, and you had Mobley and Allen working the baseline together. So they are able to lock in and kind of crank it up to another level, even defensively, too.
This was the first game that we saw in all the games I've seen the Cavs so far. This is the first thing that you saw energy being matched. Like the Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls were good.
They were so good. They were so locked in. But what I think when you think about a team and believing in them and being able to say, all right, could they take this to the playoffs? Withstanding runs. The Bulls came out locked in on their home court. There's something to be said about being able to withstand being down, especially on the road. The Cavs were down by 9 points. And you would have thought that they were down by 30 just from the energy within the arena and within the game. And the Cavs were 100% able to, as you mentioned, rely on their bench to come in, hit timely shots and not go out of character. Right? It wasn't like you saw the Cavs come in and completely change who they were. They played hard defense. They ran in transition. They hit their open shots. And one thing they do incredibly well, moved the ball. Yeah. You saw that thing whipping around the half court. And so
it's nice. It's nice when like Darius Garland is the second guy on a swing, right? Like, and they keep having guys out there, even Evan Mobley. A guy catches the ball, swing. The guy who catches it knows what to do with it. Those guys are just, and they're clicking. Kenny Atkinson, we're going to now be hammering the Cavs every day because Kenny Atkinson has that offense humming. We got to talk NBA Cup because that's tonight. I mean, this is, it's a huge deal. And, you know, last year was so much fun and we're going to be locked in on it for the whole month here. And we're going to be out in Vegas. So it's very important to us. And unfortunately, being colored by injuries. I mean, as we go into the opening round of group play for the NBA Cup, we've got the Chet Holmgren injury, which we're going to dig into after the break with Andrew Schlecht. He's out 8 to 10 weeks. Kevin Durant out at least 2 weeks with a calf. Zion Williamson, 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring. Ja Morant, week to week with a hip. Damian Lillard, we found out last night, is in concussion protocol. So he's going to miss the Bucks game on Tuesday. The vibes keep getting worse for Milwaukee. This is going to be a rough week for a bunch of teams, but it's not all negative. Okay. Luckily, Joel Embiid is going to come back. He's going to make his season debut. And man, they
I'm excited.
And they need him. Did you just hit an Arsenio?
I did.
In 2020. Were you even alive for Arsenio? Okay. I'm just kidding.
I was not,
okay. This is,
it was still fun.
That's going to make social media, I bet. So yeah, Zena, Embiid's back. Look, I know you're big on bigs. So, I mean, this is like a big deal to you.
Absolutely. And it's just been so much drama around this team and particularly this one player, Joel Embiid, for all the wrong reasons. So now he gets to shut everybody up by just getting back on the court and hopefully playing well. You talked about all these other teams that are dealing with injuries entering the NBA Cup. This is now going to be their chance to see, can you rally around the fact that you've got big absences? We just saw the Sixers
they did
handle
not
this
rally.
so well. Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's
didn't rally so well. Tyrese Maxey having to up his usage, ultimately ends up getting injured. You've got Paul George that came back from injury, didn't come back with the splash necessarily. So you're seeing that it's not easy to have such a big absence. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what these other clubs do while they have those big stars. But hey, Joel Embiid being back, this is huge. Get him back on the court, being able to show what he is capable of, the reason why he was an MVP, the reason why he is the star.
We'll see. I don't think we're going to see that on Tuesday night. I mean, I just don't.
Probably not.
My expectations for Joel are very low after missing training camp in the first month of the season. But, you know, it's the NBA Cup. Guys are going to be playing hard. And, it's a good
point. Give him grace.
That's it. Yeah. That's right. That's not how this works. We got to hammer. If you're out there playing, I expect you to play.
I'm giving him grace. I'm giving him grace.
Now there's another comeback. You're going to be in the building for this. Okay.
Yes.
Captain Clay. They're going to do, and I need one of these hats. Look, if the Warriors are listening, please send us one. Just send it to the show. I'll keep it, but send it to the show. I got to figure out how to
get some at the door.
Klay Thompson's going to come back with the Mavericks. I mean, look, this is probably going to be emotional. The tribute video, the well-deserved tribute video, unlike, you know, some of the ones that are handed out, is probably going to have
You're so silly.
tears in the audience. I mean, I think people are going to be crying. So on an emotional night, like, what do you expect? Do you think the Warriors are going to just want to stomp Klay?
You know what's funny? I think so. Have you seen these clips about Klay being asked about coming back and Steph being asked about it? You know, Klay was very serious, very locked in, very professional. He said, it's going to be great to see some of the guys that I grinded with, but ultimately it's just a regular season game. Say all that for the cameras. I think the second that they see each other, particularly there's going to be two moments that I'm locking into. Number one, that pregame shoot around. I'm going to be on the court before everybody gets out there. I'm sure they're going to find a way to shoot around as early as possible so that they can have some privacy in that moment. But then also that moment, everyone sees it at home. You see it in the arenas where the lights are flashing and they're getting ready for the jump ball and everybody's kind of dapping up, shaking hands before the game. and you're going to see Klay Thompson in a Mavericks uniform lining up against his old teammates. That's going to be a moment. That's going to be, for the crowd, it's going to be surreal to see that. But it's going to be a good game.
Ringo Starr played against the Beatles. I honestly don't have any. No. I love being old enough to be able to tell people anything, and they maybe believe it. No, it's going to be weird. I hate to see those guys broken up like this. It's not,
but it's going to be a good game, Dave.
It is.
I mean, Dallas Mavericks have been entertaining. Warriors have been entertaining. This is going to be a battle. We'll see what happens in terms of the size disparity. I think that's the biggest thing that people have talked about within this matchup. But they've been fun. Yeah. They've been fun.
It's going to be a fun game. Coming up after the break, we got Andrew Schlecht, who is on the floor at the Thunder game, and we're going to talk about Chet Holmgren, and hopefully we're not going to cry. The Thunder survived their first game without Chet Holmgren last night against the Clippers, which I just can't believe, Zena. I thought Ivica Zubac was just going to dominate. And then I looked at the starting lineup that the Thunder ran out there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the tallest guy. Andrew Schlecht is here. He was at the game. Andrew, is this the plan? They're just going to run out a bunch of guards, say, Shai, just score 45 points, get 9 assists, get 5 steals like you did last night. Just do that every game until Hartenstein comes. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, they don't really have an option right now. I mean, for the Thunder, it's going to be all about Shai. It's going to be all about J-Dub. Both had incredible games tonight. But it is going to be about Shai. He had 45 points on 21 shots tonight. I mean, it doesn't get much more.
How many free throws, though?
Listen,
Andrew?
We don't need it. There's no need to talk about that. There's no need. He made 15 of 16 from the free throw line tonight.
Hey, at least he's making them.
9 assists to 1 turnover. I mean, he was about as efficient as you can be. And they needed all of it because the Clippers were on fire tonight from 3. They were 21 of 38, 55% from 3. And the Thunder won this game on the possession battle. You know, they turned the Clippers over a ton. And that's how they won the game, is that they got more shots.
They were a nightmare for James Harden.
An absolute nightmare.
They were a nightmare for James Harden and Ivica Zubac. Like, Zubac had 4 turnovers in the first half, could not get anything settled. I'm curious, when you look at the fact that they had all 5 guards out there, is there any concern that another team won't be able to expose this sooner? I feel like the Clippers got onto the paint attack and also taking advantage of Zubac inside in the second half. That can't be the rest of the Western Conference. That can't be the rest of the NBA. Do you think that this is going to get exposed really soon?
You know, the Thunder have played this way for a long time. They play this way whenever, even when Chet's playing, like, they go small a lot and they win those minutes a lot. So this is not anything new for the Thunder. They love to swarm the paint and recover. And that's been one thing that the Thunder have done for years. And one indicator of that is that teams often shoot really well from the corners against the Thunder because they do play this scramble style of defense. And so this is something they've been doing for a while. And will teams exploit it? Absolutely. But we also saw them try to get the ball to Zubac in a lot of places where it wasn't successful. Zubac did have a great night against the Thunder. But if we're talking about post-entry passes to big men, over and over again that are being double and triple teamed, that's not a good recipe for great basketball. It ended up working out for the Clippers tonight pretty well, but still, like, the Thunder found themselves on the high side. They turned them over, 23 times and converted a lot. They took 10 more shots than the Clippers. They didn't win the rebounding battle, but they won the possession battle. And, like, that is what
16 steals.
That's what's going to matter.
Don't bury the lead, Andrew.
That's what's going to matter.
They're increasing their league lead in steals. I mean, they're like running away with the team steal record right now. 16 steals in this game. We mentioned double teaming Harden. They're flying all over the court, and the ball pressure. Again, this is a bunch of guys. Now, it's funny because there have been teams like the Raptors team where we talk about all these guys who are 6'9". The Magic, they're shooting for these guys that are 6'10", and we think about that. A team of guys who are 6'6" and under, who can all handle, take shots. all move around.
They're all like versions of each other.
They have good hands. I mean, they're missing Dyson Daniels basically on this team, but they got all the rest of the guys. I mean, they could be running amoeba defense out there, Andrew, by the time this is all said and done. I don't know. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to watch. And not only defensively can you see these guys taking on a lot of different roles, but offensively, like there's a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. So like that's kind of the blueprint for being a Thunder player. And you see this kind of being repeated in the draft over and over again. You see that with guys that they acquire, even like Isaiah Hartenstein, who is a big man. I mean, he's a big man with a lot of skill. And like this is like it's a skill game for the Thunder. They want disruptive defensive players, which they acquired one in Alex Caruso. They drafted one last year in Cason Wallace. They have one of the best in Lou Dort. And then they want guys that can do multiple things on the offensive end. And that's what you see throughout the roster. Now, they're not big, but as time goes on, I think that they'll probably play like 6 to 10 games without both Chet and Hartenstein. But they'll get Hartenstein back. Jay Will is going to come back shortly after that. And then give it 10, 12 to probably 10 to 15 weeks, and Chet will be back too. So eventually they're not going to be this tiny team. But for probably the next like 9, 10 games, we are going to see like this micro ball from the Thunder.
And it's too bad we're not in the 10-day contract territory because, we could be getting like DeMarcus Cousins in Oklahoma City. Like this is like desperate
That's
times.
Absurd.
That's a good point. That's a good point, though. Like you look at what Dagnall did tonight and Dylan Jones. Taking the ball off the rim, taking up the court. Like you saw a little bit more creativity in terms of some of the lineups that the OKC was using. Like, do you expect that to continue, or do you think Dagnall's going to like try to lock in for these next 6 to 10 games on his top 6 or 7?
Does he believe in the hot hand?
I was going to say,
is he going to be riding the hot hand?
No,
is that what we got?
One thing I know for sure about Mark Daigneault is that he doesn't lock in on anything, on any rotation throughout the whole season. He loves to try stuff. And there are lineups where I'll look over at whoever I'm sitting with, whether that's media or a scout or somebody, be like, all right, they're really trying stuff right now. This is what they do. They use the regular season as a time to experiment and figure out what they have. And it's going to be to the extreme. The Thunder are actually going to be really fun over the course of these next couple of weeks, just because it's going to be stuff that you've really never seen before. And tonight they executed on a really high level. So it's stuff you've never seen before and at a high level. I mean, it's pretty entertaining basketball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love a coach that likes to tinker, but you have to be careful, man. Like sometimes you can get you do a little bit too much tinker, you get a tinker stinker. And that's not fun. And
come on, Dad.
I'm telling you right now,
when they DeMarcus Cousins and Tinker Stinker,
they're going to get blown out in one of these games, and people are just going to hammer some rotations for Mark Daigneault. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us and giving us the feel in the arena, which, by the way, one of the best arenas in the NBA to watch a game. I got to see Steph Curry there once. Man, so much fun.
Oh, that's
Coming
fun.
up after the break, we're going to dig into Victor Wembanyama and tell you why he's shooting way too many threes. All right, guys, on our way out, look, we've been hammering the email, NBADaily@theathletic.com, and we've gotten some emails, and tonight was a perfect night for this email. So Victor Wembanyama has a great game. The Spurs look pretty good. And this is going to sound funny when we get to it because Victor Wembanyama hit a bunch of threes. The Spurs beat the Sacramento Kings 116-96. And Victor Wembanyama was awesome. So I want to read this email because it's timely. Hey, guys, really enjoy the new Athletic NBA format. Dave was a great choice, which thank you very much. I'm going to skip the part where he's saying the nice stuff. If anything, I wish it was longer. Hey, you know what? Keep those emails coming.
Right.
I haven't heard much conversation about Wemby yet on the pod and how bad of a season he's having. A 7'5" generational player whose shot selection is looking like Michael Porter Jr.'s. I'm not a Spurs fan. This is a Wolves fan, so take that in mind. But I've tuned in a few times as Spurs and have really been surprised by how bad he looks. He'll do something incredible once or twice a game, and defensively he says fine here. I say defensively he's amazing. But at what point do you ditch all the outside stuff and make him play in the paint? He reminds me of Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm going to just cut it off there. Thanks and take care. That's from George Fallon in the UK, which is fantastic. Worldwide show. That's
Love
awesome. This is a funny night to complain about Victor Wembanyama shooting threes because he goes 6 for 12 from three, Zena, but his average shot distance this season per Joe Wolfson on Twitter is 16.5 feet. Damian Lillard for his career, 16.4. That is a problem, if even just spiritually for me.
It makes sense. And going deeper into those stats, when you look at the total amount of shots that Victor Wembanyama has taken within 5 feet, he's not even in the top 50 amongst all NBA players. Shots 25 feet to 29 feet, number 12 in the
It's
NBA.
insane.
So yes, he is absolutely predominantly outside on the perimeter, and it doesn't make sense. To George's point, I do think he doesn't look good to other people because he's not being utilized the way that we would expect to utilize a 7'5" man. He's not down on the block. He's not working around the paint. He's often the trail position because he's usually the person getting the rebound and then helping it get across the half court line.
Bringing the ball up a lot.
Bringing the ball up a lot. He's often in pick and roll situations, but he's not rolling. He's popping more so. And if he does get the ball in the paint, it's often to pass. So yes, to the outside perspective, it does make it look like, what? This doesn't make sense.
Right.
He looks bad. But this is how the Spurs are using him. Great question, though. Yeah. When do you stop utilizing him outside?
I would say that
he's
a little too skinny to post up. I mean, Alex Caruso shoved him around in that game the other night. Domantas Sabonis last night was shoving him around. So that's tough. But for me, a big man who can shoot, who can dribble, who can pump fake and go, and who can pass like Victor Wembanyama would be extremely valuable at the elbow, at the nail, somewhere in the middle of the court where he can get the ball, make a decision, make a dribble, and make stuff happening. But, I mean, listen, the guy's amazing. He was amazing in the game last night. I can't complain. I just would like to see the 7'5" guy put the ball in the basket more than 30% of the time. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Zena Keita and Andrew Schlecht, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.